Functions as component in React. React uses the best of different programming paradigms. That's only possible because JavaScript is a many-sided programming language. On the object-oriented programming side, React's class components are a great way of leveraging the abilities of JavaScript classes, inheritance for the React component API, class methods, and class properties such as this that set state and this that state. On the other side, there are lots of concepts from functional programming used in React and its ecosystem. So the class properties is the accessing the methods in a classical object-oriented programming. It's the same with this. This that set state is how you access class properties in React. On the other side, there are lots of concepts from functional programming used in React and its ecosystem. And again, React is mostly functional programming. For instance, React's function components are another way of defining components in React. The question which led to function components in React: what if components could be used like functions? Like this: function, parameter props, then return view. It's a function which receives an input, props, and returns the displayed HTML elements, view. Under the hood, the function only need to use the rendering mechanism of the render method from React components. Like this. So under the hood, if you create a function in React, it just need to use the render method from React, from the component that we import in React. So remember the render method in HTML before? This is actually the only method that is being invoked by this function. Function components are the preferred way of defining components in React. They have less boilerplate, add less complexity, and are simpler to maintain than React class components. You can easily migrate your class components to function components with React hooks. So the reason that React primarily use function components or those little details is that they have less complexity. With Node.js today, or the design pattern of Node.js, they kind of have the same with React, in which you have this many module components with small scope or predefined scope. So those modules are highly specialized for that specific like function. So it has less complexity because you have like few things or few functionality inside that component. You can easily migrate your class components to function components with React hooks. So React hooks, to be clear, is not actually a class component. It's a function component. I mean, it's not a function component as well, but it is actually being used to convert class component to a function component. So you can manage state just the way you manage state with class in object-oriented programming, but you can manage that with still using the function as a first class methods, meaning you can pass those functions around other functions, unlike with class objects where you need to access properties and it will take a lot of manual retrieval to get those properties. Now previously, the article mentioned JavaScript arrow functions and how they improve your React code. Let's apply these kinds of function to your function components. So these are the function components. The previous greeting component has two different looks with JavaScript ES5 and ES6. Here's the ES5 function greeting with the parameter props, then return h1 element, and then string interpolation props that greeting. So it means that we access the greeting inside this props object. Here is the arrow function const greeting equal parameter props right arrow function, then return h1 props dot greeting, and then closing h1, then JavaScript ES6 arrow function without body and implicit return. So here, if we remove the semi-curly bracket and we just return it, so we can also do implicit return, but we can only remove the return statement if we also remove the curly bracket. Now JavaScript arrow functions are a great way of keeping your function components in React concise. Even more when there's no computation in between, and thus the function body and return statement can be left out. So this implicit return and without body is even better if your function inherently doesn't have those computation and body to begin with. Template literals in React. Template literals are another JavaScript language specific feature that came with JavaScript ES6. So this aside from this implicit return body, okay, it's a JavaScript specific thing. The arrow function is that template literals as well. So these are the advantages of JavaScript. You know what makes it better from other languages. Allowing you to be able to implicitly return a statement, and then allowing you to do template literals. So the template literals is this inside the h1 element of your components. Now it is worth to mention it shortly, because when people new to JavaScript and React see them, they can be confusing as well. When learning JavaScript, it's the following syntax that you grow up with for concatenating a string. So think about this template literals, kind of like highly similar with concatenating a string with other languages. Like this function greeting parameter what return welcome to plus what, and then we convert that to an arrow const greeting. So we redefine that const greeting equal get greeting parameter JavaScript string, then console.log greeting. So we log this object that we created, and we use this function with an input string welcome to JavaScript. Now template literals can be used for the same, which is called string interpolation. So here we return the welcome to and then $sign the what sorry, instead of having to define this or declaring this function. Instead of instantiating this variable. So we get this just one component. So template literals literally reduces your component by not having you declare and instantiate a variable. Now you only have to use backticks and $sign, and then this open and semi-curly bracket notation for inserting JavaScript primitives. However, string literals are not only used for string interpolation but also for multi-line strings in JavaScript. So Again, use this when you're like usually or when you're trying to insert a string, but it is not just being used in string, it is also being used as a multi-line string in JavaScript like this. Welcome to what? So basically, that's how larger text blocks can be formatted on multiple lines. For instance, it can be seen with recent introduction of GraphQL in JavaScript because GraphQL queries are composed with template literals. Also, React-style components make use of template literals. So these are the basics of JavaScript that you need to know because a styled component where you want to add some styling in your component are being done using this JavaScript feature for React. Now var, let, and cons in React. Also, the different variable declaration with var, let, and cons can be confusing for beginners to React even though they are not React specific. Maybe it is because JavaScript ESX was introduced when React became popular. I tried to introduce let and cons very early in my workshops. It simply starts with exchanging var with const in a React component. So instead of since people in other languages are used to using var to declare variable, but the new way of doing that is const. So people really don't get the essence of that until now. We can only like make a good assumption why is that. So some of those things like is that maybe that because ES6 or the newer JavaScript feature are just released after the React has already been used for many years. So here const users equal. So then I give the rules of thumb when to use which variable declaration. First, don't use var anymore because let and const are more specific. So since we're using a functional component and JavaScript is towards functional programming, Node.js design pattern also towards functional programming, and most programming language are towards functional programming because it's easier. So you need to use let and const. So there's a lot of details around those var and let and const as a programming language, but you don't need to know about any of those. Just need to know that we're gonna use let and const whenever we declare a variable. Default to const because it cannot be reassigned or redeclared. So first, don't use var because let and const are more specific. So if you're gonna choose between let and const, default to const because it can be reassigned or redeclared compared to let. Use let when reassigning the variable. So you use the let whenever you want to reassign the variable. So if you use let first, you're not be able to reassign it, right? If you use const, you have a choice. So you are anti-fragile because you still have a choice to reassign it. While let is usually used in a for loop for incrementing the iterator, const is normally used for keeping JavaScript variables unchanged, even though it is possible to change the inner properties of objects and arrays when using const. The variable declaration shows the intent of keeping the variable unchanged though.